There are no more heroes here. No muscle valor, just plain fear. No one to save the day. I'm gonna do it my own way. There are no more heroes here. No muscle valor, just plain fear. No one to save the day. I'm gonna do it my own way. Desolate city street is all my eyes do meet. You ask me why I fear. There are no more heroes here. There are no more heroes here. No muscle valor, just plain fear. No one to save the day. I'm gonna do it my own way. There are no more heroes here. No muscle valor, just plain fear. 'Cause 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 I'm gonna do it my own way. As I rush to the side, gonna have to use all of my might. Oh no, cheek, I see a tear. Don't fear, your heroes here. There are no more heroes here. No more soul valor, just plain fear. No one to save the day. I'm gonna do it my own way. There are no more heroes here. No more soul valor, just plain fear. No one to save the day.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. You are here for day 7 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Today we're going to be discussing basic vehicle operation, just, a little bit of information where we finally start learning how to drive. I know it's live stream, not in person, not in a car, so the information is not going to be wholly awesome, but this is where we start. We got to learn. We got to start somewhere, and an explanation before a physical education in driving really does benefit y'all, because y'all are going to know ahead of time, and we're not going to have to cram all this into your head while we're also trying to teach you to be confident and competent behind the wheel. So no worries, folks, you got this. Pay close attention, and as always, thanks for showing up, everybody. All right, so now it's time for basic vehicle operation, the Hernandez Driveway. All right, so what we got? All right, so instrument controls and devices. Now this is the high instrument cluster or the instrument control cluster. And this works as the forebrain for your vehicle. This is the display that's going to give you all the information that you need to know about what your car is actively doing, about any issues that it may have, and it's also the part that keeps track of exactly how far your car has gone. In the event that this part starts to mess up, the speed doesn't gauge right, the gas doesn't gauge right, the tachometer, the temperature, the needles are bouncing back and forth. You're going to have to get that replaced. And because this is an integral part, this does have to be programmed specifically to your vehicle. So rest assured, people can no longer do things to make cars seem like they have less miles, because the less miles, the better shape a vehicle, the engine, and the transmission are in. Right? But people used to swap these out for a new one, and then, it's at 0 miles. No idea how many are on this vehicle now. And they just increase the value of their hoopty. So not the case anymore. Now all of this communicates with your engine specifically. There's little chips in the engine that talks to this and gives it a specific reading. And if it hasn't been set to that, the car won't even start. It's kind of awesome that way. It makes it a little more, easy to buy with confidence. But that's newer cars. So let's learn about what this thing tells us. Right? First thing that we're going to learn about is our speedometer, or you just break that down, speedometer. So what does it tell us? The speed. Yep, it's telling us how fast we're going. Now, the outer ring is in miles per hour. The inner ring is kilometers per hour. So if you and your vehicle were to take a little trip to another country, you could still drive it because, hey, you'd have that kph. All right, because the unit of measurement we use here in the United States is mph, miles per hour. Right? Now, the next one is the tachometer. Now, tachometer is going to be the other large one right there, right? And what the tachometer measures is the revolutions per minute. Well, what's revolving? What exactly is that's moving? It's your transmission. And to be more precise, it's the coupling between the transmission and the engine that's rotating. Each full rotation is a full rotation of your crankshaft in the engine, right? That means all your cylinders have fired once. All right, so let's take a closer look at what this dial tells us, though. All right, so right here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then it says 1 minute times 1,000. So this is telling us 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 revolutions per minute. Well, each revolution is also accompanied by all of your pistons going off. So this is why vehicles with 6 cylinders or 4 cylinders use less gas than 8 cylinders or 12 cylinders. 12 cylinders are like super big sports cars or big trucks. All right, well, good luck on your competition. May the other mariachis not have the spirit that yours does. May you do well and win. And please do be sure to catch the replay. And thanks for the heads up. All right, so good luck with that. All right, continuing per minute, yes. So the gears in your car work similar to the gears on a multi-speed bicycle, except there's way more gears and much more force is being applied to the system. All right, so you are going much faster. All right, but that times 1,000 is the reason why carbon monoxide is an issue, because 3,000 revolutions per minute on a 4-cylinder means 12,000 tiny explosions, and that is a ton of carbon monoxide buildup very quickly, because all of those tiny little explosions are creating some. All right, so what's next on our list right here is our odometer. Now, the odometer is what I was telling you about. That's how far your engine has gone, okay, since it was installed. All right. Why is this important? Because engines have a lifespan. Transmissions have a lifespan. The closer you are to the end of the traditional lifespan for that vehicle, well, the closer you are to needing massive repairs. This is why mileage is one of the factors that affects the cost of a vehicle. All right, you don't want to buy a car that's got like over 100,000 miles unless you're getting it for next to nothing, because anything and everything could break down on it very shortly. Right now, your fuel gauge, that's going to be the little one over there on the left-hand side. And well, this one's easy to read, right? It goes in quarters. It's full, 3/4, half, 1/4, empty. Problem is that the part that's in there that's telling us how much is in there is only capable of doing so up to a certain height. So that means if the height of your gas tank is higher than what the instrument is able to read, your needle's going to go all the way past full and stay there. And stay there, and stay there. And you're going to be driving around and your vehicle's going to say, nope, haven't used any gas. It is actually using gas. It's just not able to measure the gas beyond a certain point, and it's not able to accurately tell you where out of the tank you are. However, if it does have that awesome little thing that's like so many miles to empty, your vehicle does or is able to calculate that even based on the overfill. It's kind of cool, but very accurate. Okay? But yes, that's going to tell you exactly, more or less, how much is left in your gas tank. But that does mean that first half, when you fill it all the way up, that first half that you use is going to feel like it takes longer. You're still using gas, it's just not able to read that beginning. Once the needle starts moving, then it's accurately letting you know in relation to what's left, how much you have. In relation to what is measurable, how much gas is still available to you. And when it gets down to that 0, that does not mean you have 0 gas. The E does not actually mean you are empty, but you need to be putting gas before you get to that point, because at that point, you have no way of telling how far you're going to make it before your car goes sputter, 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 dead. Right? Because running out of gas obviously kills the engine. No gas, no power. Okay? So keep an eye on it and try to keep your vehicle to where you don't let it go beyond a quarter of a tank. Always, fill her back up once it gets to that point. Right? And for that very reason, you should not buy like a Yukon while you're still young, because filling up a Yukon is like $80. Well, 65 right now, 70. And smaller vehicles, more mileage, better gas, better fuel economy, save money. Now, your temperature gauge is the last one that we've got on there. That's the one all the way to the right. And the temperature gauge is probably the most important for you, the operator. Now, yes, we can't run out of gas. Yes, we have to be going a certain speed in certain zones. Yes, we don't want our engine overworking. If your car is constantly at 6,000 RPM, well, A, you're killing your engine and you have a problem with your transmission because it should not get that high. It should get up to about 4 or 5 and then shift back down between 2 or 3. Okay? But your temperature gauge, that's that one that's pretty much going to do nothing the whole time. And once it starts doing something abnormal, you got to spot it right away. We have to. Okay? Because if your engine overheats and you don't notice and you drive that for a while, you might as well get a new car because the damage you do to the engine and the other parts is astronomical. All right? So what do you do if your engine does start to overheat? Because this is how your temperature gauge works. All right? Your temperature gauge is like, hey, how's it going, buddy? And then he real slow waves at you. And then it gets to that point where it gets to, and then it's just going to stop right there. And it's just like waving at you. But once you see that arm starts moving again, once you see that needle starts going beyond that point that it's always sitting at, we have a problem. Okay? On cold days, it won't get to that regular point because you're driving and, cold air is going to cool down the engine. But anytime it gets beyond that point, anytime it gets beyond the temperature that it just kind of stops at all the time, we need to spot that right away because then we have problems. Right? But what do we do if our engine does start to overheat? Well, step one, we have to know how our air conditioner works. Steve, what the heck does my air conditioner have to do with my engine overheating? Well, in order to make things cold, it takes a lot of heat. Okay? Now, this can sound strange, but anybody ever put their hand behind a refrigerator? It's like the warmest place in the house, right? And the reason it's warm back there is because there's motors and compressors and things like that are running, they're operating, they're generating heat to push that cold air around and cause the refrigerator to be cold on the inside, right? Well, your air conditioning works very much in the same way. So the first thing you have to do if your engine starts to overheat is not add to the heat source and turn off your air conditioner. That's step one. Now, step two, we need to know how our heater works. Wait, we're talking about air conditioners and heaters? Absolutely. You ever notice on a cold morning, you turn on the heater on the car, you jump in, you don't warm it up or nothing, you just start driving, and like 15 minutes later, right when you're getting to your destination or when you're halfway there already, then you feel warm air start coming out? That's because your heater blows hot air that it gets from the engine compartment itself. So the air in the engine compartment needs to be hot before it'll give you hot air. Okay, well, if your vehicle's overheating, this is an ideal way to pull extra heat out. So if you got too much heat in the engine compartment, you want to get as much out as soon as possible, blast the heater. Now remember, this is the valley, so if it's summertime, open up them windows, point the vents away from you, close the ones in the middle, so that like that hot air gets blasted out and away from you, not right into your face and giving yourself some automatic heat stroke. Because a heater on in the valley with the windows closed in summer, that's a death sentence right there all in and of itself. You could pass out from the heat. So don't do that to yourself. Open the windows. Now, if you think it's too hot to drive with the windows open when it's summertime, it's not. I haven't had AC all summer long, folks. And didn't bother me much. Except in the rainy days. Those suck, because then you got to close everything up and it does get warm. But yes, turning on the heater is going to pull hot air from the engine compartment and throw it into the cabin. Now, on a cold day, that's awesome because A, you'll be extra warm as you're trying to get your vehicle to a better location. But B, doing this is going to let you drive that car a little bit further before you get to that danger zone. Archer fans, right? Danger zone. Once you get to the danger zone, you got to pull the car over. You got to stop it right away. We can't let it get all the way to the end because then we run the risk of actually breaking the engine. All right? So blast that heater, get off the roadway that you're on, get into a nice public parking lot, somewhere you can stay and get a tow from, or maybe you're close to home and blasting that heater, opening up them windows, turning off that AC is going to get you home, and then you can just park the car there. But use your better judgment and make sure, no problem, just be sure to watch the beginning of the video, and you're good to go. All right? But yeah, so blast the heater. All right? Now, by following these steps, your vehicle may be able to keep cool long enough to get home instead of breaking down on the highway, or at the very least, pull out of the traffic lane, get off the expressway, and get into a parking lot. All right? Keeping an eye on the temperature gauge is super important. Okay? Because like I said, like right there in that lower right-hand quarter image, that temperature gauge is going to get to that point, and then it's just going to be there. And it's going to be there, and it's going to be there. And then once it starts moving beyond there, then we already have a problem. We have until it hits that little red bar, and then we need to just get that car off as soon as possible. All right? So now you know, folks, blast the heater, turn off the AC, and open up them windows. It's the best way to keep that engine cool while you're trying to get it somewhere safe so that you can park. Now, as a general rule, the symbols that you see, the little warning lights that come on there, red and yellow ones are not good. Something's wrong, something's deficient, something needs to get checked. All right? Now, with your oil pressure warning light, that quite simply means your vehicle may be low on oil. If that light comes on, take the opportunity to check the quality of your oil. If your oil is dark brown or black, then it needs to be replaced. All right? If your oil is that amber color but not reading or just barely reading on the dipstick, then you just need a little more oil. Open up the top of the engine, put some in, this light will go off on its own. All right? It just means that you have low oil pressure, commonly because you're low on oil. Okay? If you need the oil change, get it. That resolves the issues. If you don't need the oil change, just put a little more oil. Okay? Now, if you do constantly lose oil, then you're going to need to do this regularly, and you're going to need to get your vehicle repaired, because a vehicle that drips oil is, well, it's polluting, and so we need to get those things fixed. Now, newer vehicles will tell you exactly when the vehicle thinks your oil needs to be changed. You'll get an alert every 2,000 miles. Depending on the sort of operation, how well you take care of your vehicle, and the variety of oil that you get, you may have to change it after 2,000, probably not. The second time it goes off, you've now put on 4,000. Conventional oil is generally now good for about that. Synthetic blend oils can be good for up to 6,000 to 8,000 miles, and full synthetic oils can last 8,000 or more miles. So yeah, you pay twice as much for a full synthetic blend oil change, but it also lasts twice as long. I'd rather spend $70, once a year than 60 or 45 twice. Okay, but just because it says that your oil needs to be changed does not mean that it actually needs to be changed. You need to learn to check your oil. You're looking for the buildup of grit, dark brown or black looking oil. That needs to be changed. If it's still got that honey, that light yellow color to it, that very, very barely stained yellow color to it, then your oil's fine. It doesn't need to be changed. All right. But one of the most important things you can do to maintain your vehicle is get an oil change when your vehicle does need it. Right? Driving on bad oil will cause additional damage to the oil, additional buildup of carbon and stuff, and that can decrease the efficiency of your engine. So we want to make sure we change our oil regularly, but not before it needs it. Okay? Now, your alternator warning light, well, the alternator is a part of your electrical system. It's a turbine that is run by the serpentine belt, that belt that gets spun by your engine running. And it actually provides power to keep the battery charged, your headlights, your radio, the alarm, your horn, your everything. Okay? The battery's primary function is just kind of like a jump starter. Okay? Because even without a battery, if you remove the battery from a vehicle once it's turned on, the alternator will power everything, because that's what it typically does. Okay? It just needs that battery to get the process started. All right. If you're sitting in the car listening to the radio and this light comes on, we just turn on the car, let it run for 15 minutes, and you're good to go. Your battery will be charged. If this comes on while you're driving, that means either your battery or alternator is going bad. To figure out which one it is, it's very simple. With your car still running, remove the positive terminal from the battery. Just unhook the red wire side, the plus sign side, remove it. If the car turns off, your alternator's going bad. If the car keeps running, your battery's probably going bad. Boom, you just saved $100 in diagnostic fees, and it only took you 30 seconds to check the issue. All right? Now, anti-lock braking system light, or the ABS. All right, and that symbol right there, the parentheses around the circle, are actually brake pads on a brake disc or brake pads on a brake drum. All right, that's what that symbol represents. It's the thing that actually mechanically stops our vehicle. All right. Now, before anti-lock brakes, when a driver would slam on the brakes, the tires would lock up and stop spinning. When your tires lock up, you've suddenly lost control of the vehicle. All right. Because you have no traction. Right. If you have no traction, you have no control, and that means the odds of crashing into stuff are way higher. Now, the ABS system gradually slows the vehicle down without locking up and without immediately stopping the spinning of the tires. This allows you to slow down while turning and allows for much safer driving. If there is an issue with your ABS, if your ABS light comes on, you need to get it checked as soon as possible, right? Most of the time, it's going to be nothing, but the ABS is also what controls your ability to safely stop. So it doesn't matter that most of the time it means nothing, and something needs to get reset, or something, it needs a little more brake fluid or some little nonsense like that. Because when it is something serious, this is the thing that's going to keep you from losing control while having to stop, right? So this does need to get addressed. This does need to get fixed as soon as possible by a reputable mechanic, all right? The ABS light system is not engaged. There could be a massive problem, all right? Your safety belt light warns the driver and passengers if seat belt is not on, usually accompanied by a beeping as well. There's a weight sensor in the front seats that'll alert you if somebody is not buckled up. All right, that's when that little symbol comes on. Most vehicles don't have them in the back seats. As long as there's enough weight on something, on one of the seats though, that alert will go off. So like if you have a super heavy backpack from college, or you know, like you've got boxes on the front seat, this thing might just start going off because of that weight. Just buckle the stuff in and it'll stop. All right, but Texas is a click it or ticket state, so we need to make sure that we wear our seatbelt. Because in the event of invasive maneuvers, you may have a hard time staying in the driver's seat. So Texas wants you buckled up at all times so that you don't wind up like this guy. Now, he does momentarily fall asleep, and that's what causes his problem. There it is. Fall asleep and out. His head is near the ground, his feet are up in the air, because the car is now like this. Had he been wearing his seatbelt, he'd have still been very safely in the driver's seat. Now, if you're worried about this guy, because a lot of people are sometimes, he's okay. He does a rather impressive bit of profanity right after this, and he's fine. A little beat up, a little bruised, but survivor. All right, so airbag warning lights, all right. Some airbag lights warn you that the airbag is turned off due to insufficient weight on the seat, because airbags are designed for adults, and if it doesn't think there's an adult weight in the seat, it won't deploy because it could hurt a child, right? Other ones are to inform you that there's an issue with the airbag. If there is an issue with the airbag, airbags are passive safety devices. We want to get those checked and fixed if necessary, folks. All right. Now, turn signal indicators. These magical devices can be used to communicate with other drivers, whether you wish to turn at the next corner or just change lanes. With a simple flick of your magic wand, you can let other people know. If only everyone knew this. The legend of the Fletcher. Oh my goodness, this person's going to the right. Ah! Folks, it's not scary, it's not magic. You use your turn signal indicators anytime you're going to change lanes or turn, and then other people, know what you're doing and they won't accidentally hit you. So many people are like, let these adivineros guess, let these psychics guess what I'm going to do, and they just start weaving through traffic with no signals on, because that's how they roll. Yeah, that's dangerous, that's illegal, and that's silly, folks, because the number one cause for those little simple accidents is people are changing lanes without things like that, and the other drivers can't anticipate it, and a little fender bender happens. They jerk out the way to avoid hitting the person that's coming over that wasn't signaling, and now they hit a car on this side because, oops, right? Use your signal. It gives them advance notice and lets them get out of your way. Now, your high beam indicator. Now, if you look right there, you'll see that the lines are pointed straight out because the high beams do, in fact, point light straight forward. It's not actually up. It's just straight forward to illuminate as far down the road as possible, right? This is why we only drive with our high beams on unlit country roads at night when we're by ourselves, because if there is someone ahead of us coming in this from the opposite direction or going in the same direction, those headlights pointed straight out are going to be shining right at them, either blinding them through the rear view or blinding them in their face. All right, so we only use our high beams on unlit country road at night. The rest of the time, it's all low beams. In a fog, in a snowstorm, in a rain, in a dust storm, just because it's overcast and you need your lights because you can't see 1,000 feet, whatever the reason, you use the low beams. Now, they both have the same bulb symbol. It's that little weird kind of like bullet jacketed round head looking thing. The reason that is because old school, like the first headlights, were cones shaped like that. Just imagine that spun, rotated. It's like a cone. And it had two bulbs, a higher bulb and a lower bulb. The lower bulb would reflect up and back down and create low beams. The higher bulb that was centered would illuminate straight forward, and that was your high beam. Okay. The symbol hasn't changed for the same reason that that little symbol for send on your phone is still that handset that you pick up with your hands, even though it's a cell phone now, because we like to keep using the same symbols. People have a hard time adjusting when we change one symbol for another. So they've been using the same symbol since the very beginning, folks. That's why they look like this, in case you're wondering. All right? Now, your steering wheel, right? This is just the direction your vehicle is traveling, obviously. All right? The steering wheel adjustment lever. Most vehicles are going to have a lever that you can adjust, and it'll unlock the position on the steering wheel. And then you can pick it up, down. Some of them even go back and forth to get that perfect position to where it's super comfortable and right where you need that steering wheel. All right? Now, okay, 1 second. Right. It's important that the steering wheel is properly adjusted and at least 10 inches from the furthest part of your chest up to 18, because that's comfortable for most arms, right? And the reason we want that is because if it's any closer than 10 inches from the furthest part of your chest, when that airbag inflates, it's rather like getting punched in the chest by one of the large and absolutely terrifying looking MMA people. Maybe like a John Cena jump kick, double boot to the chest might hurt as much as an airbag inflating at 200 miles an hour. But just leave the airbag further than 10 inches, in that 10 to 18 inch range from your chest, and you don't have to worry about finding out. I have unfortunately been too close to an airbag when it deployed while riding in someone else's car, and that sucked. Like, that full on felt like getting just pummeled. And it was real fast and something I did not need to accompany a rinky-dink 15-mile-an-hour crash. I was the only one that got hurt because I had to sit too far forward because the person behind me had really long legs and didn't want to sit behind the short driver. Go figure. Most cars have steering wheels that adjust at least up and down. Some do move backwards and forwards. Get that right position. Make sure it's comfortable because you're the one driving. Okay? Now, our selector lever. Sweet Life of Zack and Cody fans may have heard the Prindle on the series. Joey tells me that was a thing that they did there. But it is a good device because Prindle, park, reverse, neutral, drive, low. Okay? The letters work. It's a good mnemonic device. Helps you keep track of those gears. What does park do? Park locks the tires. Your vehicle will still move a few inches back and forth, but the transmission is not going to let the vehicle go any more than that, right? Reverse is specifically for when you want to back up. Neutral is rolling the vehicle without power, but it also allows you to turn the vehicle off while it is on, or on if it dies on you and you're rolling. You can pop it into neutral and attempt to restart. So neutral's an awesome gear. But if you have to push a vehicle, make sure you put it into neutral so that you disengage the transmission and don't damage any of the important parts, right? Drive is specifically for moving forward, and then L. Low gear can be represented by L1, L2, L3, maybe even just L or L1 and L2. What L is, though, is a fixed gear. If it's just L, then it's going to be your vehicle is stuck in first gear. All right? L1, L2 is stuck in first gear, stuck in second gear. L3 stuck in third gear. All right? And each of those gears has a purpose. Low gear is for building up momentum and maximum power, maximum torque. but not for speed. If you're going above 10 miles an hour, you need to get out of that first gear. All right. So remember, those gears will help get you started, and you can shift between all the drive gears. You can go from low 1 to drive, and you're good. You can go from drive to neutral, and you're good. But if you are rolling and you go from neutral to reverse or drive, whatever the opposite direction you're rolling is, your transmission will engage, but it will also damage the vehicle because it's already got that momentum in the other direction. Make sure you come to a complete stop before you shift from a forward gear to the reversing gear, okay, or the parking gear. I've seen people throw a car into park when it's still moving, and that is terrifying. Fortunately, none of our students yet. Now, the clutch pedal, okay, if you're not familiar with a third pedal, that's because you drive an automatic vehicle. The clutch is only available, only necessary in standard vehicles. Vehicles with a manual transmission where you have to change the gears, all right? That one in the middle that's pretty much identical to the clutch is your brake pedal, and then the tall, skinny one on the end is your accelerator. Remember, short and fat wants to stop, tall and skinny wants to go, right? That's the pedals, all right? The difference between an automatic and a standard is that your automatic vehicle does not have that third pedal because you don't need it. It automatically changes gears for you. Vehicles that use a clutch, standard vehicles, are technically worth more because the engines are abused less through manual shifting if you know what you're doing. Now, your ignition and starter switch. All right, and this is a tip that I had to learn the hard way many years ago. Don't have a lot of weight hanging from this, okay? This is an important part, and if you damage it, you can no longer turn your vehicle on, okay? Carabiners like this cost $1 a piece, and these key rings, I mean, every keychain you get comes with one, so even if it's some cheap little ghetto keychain, you can just use that, put your car keys on that, and have it so you can quickly remove them. That way you don't have any extra weight. I mean, I used to have like the lanyard of doom, like 30 different keychains and a whole bunch of stuff on there. And all that weight was constantly on my ignition until one day my ignition stopped working and I was out at the beach. So I had to get a tow from Padre Island back to Palmview, and that's like on the other side of Mission, if you're heading that way from, say, like Weslaco. So that was a very expensive tow, and my mechanic looked at it and he's like, "Is that your keychain?" "Yeah." "Do you leave the keys in like that?" "Yeah." And then he gave me a sock on the back of the head because, well, he'd been a family friend for about a decade at that point, and he was allowed to do so. And he explained to me that the ignition switch is delicate. If it gets damaged, you could damage the sensor that reads the key, because this is a key that requires a sensor. Then you have to replace the ignition switch and the keys, and that can get even more expensive, folks. So please, take care of this part, have your keys be easily removable, and if you have that push button ignition, just get used to leaving those keys clipped onto yourself, or your purse, or your backpack, or whatever. Don't take them off and put them in that little cubby, because that's just a recipe for leaving them in the car. All right. Now, cruise control is not to be mistaken for an autopilot. Cruise control are those buttons on your car that says on, off, set plus, set minus, and resume. Right? And what that does is it maintains speed. Right? If you take your hands off the steering wheel, that will maintain speed until you crash into something. Right? If you fall asleep while driving and cruise control is on, your vehicle will maintain speed until you wake up or until you crash into something. Okay? But it's not going to correct for you. So do not engage it unless you are on a long trip. Unless you are spending hours on the expressway and are trying not to accidentally speed. Okay? That's its purpose. Okay? It will not stop the car for you. It will not swerve for you. It will take you straight to your impending doom if it's on and for whatever reason you stop steering. So do not confuse the two, because cruise control is in lots of vehicles and it's handy for what it does. Keeps you from speeding. Sets the speed and keeps the vehicle at that speed. But it's not an autopilot. Please do not behave like it is one, because you can crash, and violently, with cruise control engaged. Right? It's for long distance traveling only. Now, your parking brake is either going to be that little hand one that you pull up, or it's going to be a little square pedal off to the upper left corner of where your pedals are. And they separate it like that, and they make it smaller so that you don't confuse it for a standard pedal, because you don't want to be pressing the emergency brake while you're driving. All right. Generally, you need to like lean back and really get your foot in there to get that engaged. All right. But it's an additional safety measure. And when you engage that, those 6 inches that your car would move in park are no longer accessible. Now your vehicle will move maybe a 1/4 inch in either direction before it locks up. All right. It just makes it safer, and in the event that you get hit while parked, you're less likely to roll into something. Okay. Now, head restraints. Make sure they're adjusted properly. If they are too high, you can hit your head on metal, and if they're too low, you can cause spinal separation. Your head will roll back and lift and extend your spine, and that's a broken neck, folks. That's dead. Okay. Make sure that it's adjusted and set up right on the flat part on the back of your head. That's going to ensure that in the accident, your head comes back and hits something designed to stop it, not something that's going to hurt it or not put you in a position where you're going to wind up getting hurt thanks to physics. Okay? Now, your inside and outside rear view mirrors, because all your mirrors let you look back, the ones on the doors and the ones inside the vehicle. But for whatever reason, we only call the inside one a rear view mirror, right? But they're all rear view mirrors, but there's an order that we check them in. We always check the one on the inside first, and then we check our outside mirrors, all right? Because we need to know what's going on right behind us in an emergency. Because if we have to hit the brakes and we're being tailgated, that option has been taken away from us, right? Now, your horn, don't be afraid to use the horn. I had a young lady on a driving lesson. A car was drifting into her lane while we were in that car's blind spot. And I was like, all right, Mika, I need you to slow down right away. Go ahead and tap the brakes and take your foot off the accelerator. And she did that, and we dropped back about 15 feet very quickly. And they finished moving in, and we barely didn't get hit. Like, it was nice. We avoided everything. And I was like, why didn't you honk at them to let them know you were there? I didn't want you to get mad at me. Why would anyone get mad at you for using the device that's there to go, hey, Goofy, I'm right here. Or, hey, Dopey, don't do that. Because that's what your horn does, is it alerts drivers to your existence when they don't realize you exist, or to inform them that they have done something or began to do something that is just extremely silly, dumb, wrong, not proper, right? So do not be afraid to use your horn. Beep, 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 beep. Be obnoxious, okay? Because you need them to notice. Okay? Do not be afraid to tap out of rhythm, to beat on that horn, to hold the horn down, whatever you need to do, but don't be afraid to use it. The horn is your friend. It signifies to others that you are there and not pleased with their silliness. Okay? Now, your hazard flasher control, any car that you're going to regularly drive, know where this is. All right, sometimes it's a little peg button on top of the steering column and you got to slap it down. Other times it's a button on the center console up where the radio is or below the radio. Know where it is, all right? In my vehicle, it's over the steering wheel. In my fiance's car, it's right here. In the work cars, it's a little bit lower. All right, well, at least in the work car over here in Westaco, it's a little bit lower. All right? But in the event of any kind of emergency, it's the first thing that you should be hitting. Indicate to the other drivers, hey, I'm having an emergency. That's why all my lights are blinking. All right? A very good use of this is when you see traffic ahead of you is coming to a stop and the traffic behind you is still going the speed limit. You hit this button, you start to slow down. The people behind you see, hey, look, their emergency lights are on. Must be a traffic jam up ahead or must be something going on. They'll pay attention, they'll look, and they'll respond intelligently because you let them know. Don't let them know and just have your brake lights going, and they may be going, why is this idiot braking, and hit you as they ponder that instead of going, oh, something must be wrong, because, you know, our brains aren't always firing on all cylinders. Sometimes we're just like missing the obvious. Why are they braking? The important question, or the important thing is they are braking. We need to slow down so we don't crash. Damn, should have done that faster. Sorry, I let you down. It's okay, brain. Right? Stuff happens. But don't be afraid to use this. Okay? Once again, you have any kind of emergency, slap that button and then start hitting the horn. Start doing what you need to do. All right? This turns on all 4 of your turn signals at the same time, front and back, so the vehicles coming from the opposite direction and vehicles behind you can see that something's going down. All right? Now, your hood release lever, I actually kind of love this because this is the evolution of safety. Back in the day, there was one catch. You would reach under the hood, pick up a little bit of lever, and poof, you could pop up the whole hood. Problem with that is your car, after a little bit of time, would get a little wiggle room, and then that wiggle would turn into bounce room, and then that bounce would bounce right bad, and then boop, your whole hood could just fly up, crash into your windshield, or just pop up, and now you can't see, right? Because that happens so often, and it really did, and it was a big issue, they put in a secondary lock on your hood. Now you press down on the hood and you hear it lock into place, and then you can't move it anymore, and you pull this little lever underneath your dashboard and boop, pops back up, and then it's just that original hook holding it shut. Anytime you open the hood using this and do something under there, make sure that you click it back shut and engage the secondary lock, because this is an absolute lifesaver. This is the evolution of safety, all right? But it's under the dashboard on the driver's side. It's a little switch, and it's got a little hood being raised symbol on it, just like the one in this picture, all right? The one under the hatch, you just slide your hand across with your fingers going down. You'll eventually hit it, find the paddle, lift it, and you can lift the hood. It's awesome, all right? Your heater, AC defroster, the AC is not only cool air, but the differential in temperature can draw moisture from it as well. So when it's cold out, you turn your AC off and your windows fog up because the outside air is colder than the air on the inside. You can turn your AC back on and have it blowing just on the windshield to defog those windows. All right, that's what a defroster does, is it equalizes the temperature on the inside and the outside of the windows, thus preventing condensation from happening. All right, but it's that soda can effect, right? The fog is happening on the inside because the outside is colder than the inside. Just like when you go outside on a hot day with a cold soda, your can starts to sweat on the outside because the contents are colder than the outside, right? And the defroster is a specific set of vents that target the windshield and the side windows, all right? And then the back one, you have a little button you can press for that. Most of them have electronic. It's actually a wire that runs through the glass that heats up. Crazy stuff. Now your outside checks. Before you get in your vehicle, do your outside checks, all right? Walk around, check for debris, make sure that your tires are inflated properly and pointed in the correct direction. This is like in your home driveway or your home parking space, whatever. Make sure everything's good, all right? Make sure your windshield's good, clean, and clear. Your windows and headlights are clean and clear. Your tail lights are, intact. They didn't get no busted, nothing like that. And then check inside your vehicle for unwanted passengers. Now, these are next level, all right? I mean, having a cheetah in your camel in your car, yeah, that's definitely an unwanted passenger. Or a ginger car thief, we definitely don't want one of those trying to get into the vehicle. But, it's not always so dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as there's a house cat in your car because you left the window cracked. Or a snake got in. Or a rat. Or a possum, right? Okay. Most of those animals will get out if you open the door on one side and then open the door on the other. They'll be like, and run out the open door. Open one door and stand there and try to get them out, and they'll head towards the exit. Too bad you're blocking it, and it's going to scare the snot out of you. Right? Give them an out. But yeah, most unwanted passengers want to get out once you show up. Okay? Now, getting into your vehicle, if you're entering from the street side, that means if you're going to be walking where the traffic is driving, then have your keys ready and in hand. This is the first thing we do. We take our keys out and we have them ready before we get to the car. Why? Because I know they're in here somewhere. Baby, crash. Dead. Right? We do not need to be searching for our keys while another car is about to turn us into paste. Okay? You need to have your keys ready, and you need to be ready to get in as soon as you get up in there. Or as soon as you get up there. Right? Now walk from front to back so that you can keep your eye on traffic and make sure that you see if there are vehicles coming right for you. All right? Why? Because if you don't keep your eyes on traffic, then you could get hit by a car that you could have easily avoided by simply walking around to the front of your car. Okay? When you do open your door, get in quickly. I mean, you don't have to jump through no window, but if you got it, flaunt it. All right? Go for it, folks. But get in quickly and efficiently. Do not get in and then with the door wide open start adjusting the seat and acomodando and the steering. No, get in, shut the door, because you are on street side. We do not need a vehicle ripping your door off. People do not pay a ton of attention while driving all the time, and it can happen. Okay? And then you want to lock your doors. Not because we're worried about thieves or anything, but because just like that secondary lock underneath the hood provides additional security, locking your doors engages a secondary lock that will make it less likely that your doors will pop open in the event of a collision. All right, so if you crash, your doors are less likely to pop open if they're locked. So that's why vehicles auto lock your doors once you start moving. If you hadn't noticed that they do that, pay attention. Locks go down once your car gets over like 5 miles an hour, I believe, on pretty much every new vehicle. Right? Now, get comfortable, adjust the seat to reach everything. You need to be able to reach the pedals comfortably, the shifter, everything. Just you need to be able to drive comfortably. So if you get in the car on a lesson with us, start fixing everything. Okay? And if something's not comfortable, let us know. Because it's very hard to pay attention to the roadway when you're too busy concerned with, there's something poking me in the side. I don't know what it is, but there's something crash. Because once again, we're looking over here instead of at the roadway. Okay? So please, do not be afraid to let us know something's not comfortable. All right? Because you need to be comfortable when you're driving. All right? Adjust the headrest, rear view, and outside mirrors. If you go to borrow somebody's car and they ask you not to move the seat or the mirrors, don't borrow their car. Not adjusting your mirrors or not adjusting your seat could put you, the vehicle, or other drivers in danger. Right? Improperly adjusted mirrors means you can't see everything around you and you're more likely to crash. If someone tells you, don't adjust the mirrors, just don't drive their car. And when they ask you why not, be like, well, I have a higher chance of dying if I don't adjust my mirrors. Since you just asked me to go die in your car, I'd rather not. You don't have to be quite so dramatic, but that's essentially what the request is. It's like, I don't care about your safety. I just want myself to be conveniently having everything where I want it. That's kind of rude. I'd much rather have to adjust my mirrors than have my vehicle totaled because the person that borrowed it was trying to save me 30 seconds of time. Right? I like my car. I want to keep it. Right? And lastly, fasten your seatbelt because Texas is a click it or ticket state. Once your vehicle is on the roadway, you need to have your seatbelt on. That means if you have curbside parking, if you're parked on the edge of the road and you turn the car on, you need to already be buckled up. Otherwise, you can be given a citation for driving while unbuckled or unrestrained operator. Yeah, real thing can actually happen. So if you're parked on the road, buckle up before you turn the car on. Because texting and driving in that same position is legal because you're parked. But the second that car's in drive, you are fully driving. Well, when it comes to the seatbelt, you're fully driving once the car is on. Okay, so buckle up, folks. Well, once it's on and you're in the roadway. Now, make sure your car is in park before turning it on. Keep your foot off the accelerator. You are going nowhere yet. Okay, insert your key while holding down the brake pedal and turn the key to the starting position. No. Once you hear that engine, let go of the key. You don't have to keep holding it. If you do keep holding it, once again, you are risking damaging parts. All right? Check your instrument panel. Why? Because if something's wrong with the vehicle that you're in, one of those lights is going to come on and stay on. Now, a lot of times, all the lights will come on momentarily, and then one by one they turn off as the system recognizes that everything's working fine. If anything stays on, pay attention. All right? A check engine light needs to get checked. Okay? We can't just drive. If your check engine light is on, you need to get to a mechanic within the next 50 miles. Okay? If you drive more than that with a check engine light on, you are risking the life of your vehicle or your well-being. Get it checked out, all right? Now, hand-over-hand steering for a left turn. Let me grab the steering wheel to our 2023 Pretendo. Yeah, we're fancy. We got a 2023 already. You like it? Very nice. 2023 Pretendo, folks. All right, so hand-over-hand steering. All right, so it's simple. Start at 9 and 3. Pull down, bring your hand over. Once the lower arm starts getting uncomfortable, let go. Grip the other side of the hand that's still on the wheel. Pull your hand out, bring it back, and start it again, right? When you're making a crisp turn from like a stop sign or in city, you want to turn the wheel completely until it hits. And then once you're going straight in the direction you want to quickly recover the wheel back to your centered position, right? For the right, it's the same thing. Your hand comes across. Once this arm on the bottom gets uncomfortable, reach over, let go with the other hand, bring it across, and so on. It's real easy, and steering like this is going to make it very fluid. Also, this is what eventually becomes that one-handed steering that most adults get really good at. Because the hand over hand is where you learn the motions that you use when you're one-handed steering. You simply perfect them using that. All right? One-handed steering is only to be done, though, when there's very little jeopardy of a collision. Right? Low traffic, long trip, drive one-handed. That's fine. Anytime you're around a bunch of other cars, anytime there's a risk of losing traction due to weather conditions or something like that, drive with both hands. In an emergency, you need both hands. Right. Now, putting the vehicle in motion. First, you want to put your foot on the brake pedal to ensure that the car doesn't go anywhere as you're shifting. Move the selector lever into drive. This is assuming you can't just pull out, of course. If you got to back out, you put it into reverse. Okay. Check your mirrors and your blind spots. Signal. Signal, signal, signal. If you are parked curbside on the roadway, signal and signal for at least 4 seconds before pulling out. Why? Because we need to make sure that we've given enough notice to the other drivers that, hey, we're parked, but now we're leaving, right? And make sure that a gap is more than large enough for you to pull out to, not just barely and the other car has to slam on the brakes. That's illegal. We need to be courteous. We only pull out once everything is clear and safe, just like we only go through a stop once everything is clear and safe. Right? Now, acceleration control is simple. Before pressing the accelerator, allow the car to start moving on its own. The car will build momentum on its own and start moving. If you jam on the gas before the car started moving, what can happen is your tires can just start spinning. Now, the law calls this exhibition of acceleration. Okay? It's commonly known as peeling out. And peeling out is when your tires are spinning because they don't have traction. And then eventually, you get that little jerk in the car and it starts moving. Well, you just wasted time. You didn't start moving right away. You're running the risk of a ticket. You're wearing out your tires faster because you can't let the car start moving. Let the car start on its own. It'll get going. Believe me, it wants to. Okay? Even in drive with no gas, the car wants to get moving. Let it get moving and then slowly feed it gas. Slowly accelerate. Get up to speed. Don't be in a rush. All right? And accelerate as needed. Go with the flow of traffic. Braking control for a smooth, the braking point is the point at which the brakes begin to work. On a newer vehicle, that could be the second you start to touch them. You start to touch them and your car starts to slow. On an older vehicle, you may have to push the brakes in about halfway and then you'll feel them start to work. Whatever that point is on your vehicle, that's the braking point. So when you start slowing down, you start at the braking point to start slowing the vehicle. And you only go beyond that for aggressive braking because the braking point is going to just slow you down. Okay, you'll start braking aggressively, once you are arriving at that intersection. You're stopping before you get to that solid white line, right? Apply constant pressure to the pedal when braking. Do not like in and out, in and out, in and out. Just smooth, even, and if you need to slow down a little faster, press it in a tiny bit more. That's the trick to it. All right, to make that normal smooth stop where the car just kind of like rests under you and you don't get that little jerk at the end, all you have to do is right before the car comes to a stop, right when it does, because when you're stopping, it does this. It lurches forward, and then it comes back, and that's when you feel that little shock, right? So right as it's coming forward, ease up on that brake just the tiniest bit, and the car is actually going to catch up to you, and it's going to come to that nice little smooth stop. And the first time you get that yourself, you're going to love that feeling, and you're going to get hungry for it, and you're going to want it again, and again, and again, and within an hour of starting to drive, you're going to have nothing but smooth stops. Then you're going to start getting mad at yourself. Oh, man, that last stop was jerky. And you've only been driving for an hour. That's how easy these physical things are to learn, folks. Right? Trust me, y'all got this. We just need to build competence and confidence. Competence is the ability to drive properly, knowing the rules, knowing the right thing to do. And confidence is doing that without fear. Just doing that because you trust yourself to be able to do it right. All right? When driving in an automatic vehicle, you should only be using your right foot. Okay? Position your heel in front of the brake and do not lift your foot. Then pivot your foot to hit that accelerator, right? Do not lift your foot. Okay? If you lift your foot, your vehicle is going to feel different. It's going to take longer to get accustomed to the acceleration in between each shift. It's okay. If you're ever late or if you ever can't make it, all you have to do is go back to the link at the end of class, and it'll let you re-watch the class as a saved video. But for those that are late, you can just re-watch the part that you missed. So no worries, you're good. Thank you for the heads up, though. All right? But yeah, don't lift your foot because it's going to make the car feel weird. You're not going to have that consistency. But if you're always pivoting, you're always going to be in that same position, and it'll be easy. You're very welcome. It'll be very easy to get accustomed to the way your vehicle accelerates and stops. Right? So position your foot in front of the brake, and then pivot over to the gas. Okay? Now exiting the vehicle. Keep your foot on the brake until the shift selector is in park, and the parking brake is set. All right, set the parking brake to secure the vehicle. Once again, if your transmission were to mess up and your car slip out of park, okay, having the parking brake set is going to make sure that your car doesn't move. Okay, so we definitely want to use this anytime we're parking on an angled parking spot like a driveway or on public road, especially if the ground's not even, to ensure that our vehicle doesn't go anywhere, even in the event of mechanical failure. All right, shift the vehicle into park. Take your foot off the brake, turn off the headlights and accessories to prevent unnecessary drain on the battery, take off your safety belt, close the windows before turning off the ignition. However, if no one opens their doors, most new vehicles will give you about 2 minutes to close the windows, but the second somebody opens the door, the power completely cuts to that. So make sure all the windows are shut before turning off your vehicle or opening that first door if you turned it off and then remembered to close them. Okay. Turn the ignition to the off position and remove the key. If the key does not come out, rotate it more back. If it's all the way to the back and it won't rotate further, rotate it forward until you find that point where the key will come out. Okay, because there is a utility. If you over rotate the key, you're putting it on utility, which is basically making it so that you can have the lights and the radio on and still have power being distributed to everything. Okay. Open the door as little as necessary to close it. And close it as soon as possible once you are out of the vehicle. Right? Some vehicles, like I used to have a Pontiac Firebird, that thing's doors were so freaking long that my door was like 3 feet into the road, and that was me just barely being able to get out, opening it the least I could. Right? Open all the way, it was like almost 5 feet into the roadway. It was nuts. Super big doors. If you have long doors, make sure that everything's cool and that you're going to be able to get out before a vehicle gets to you. If something happens and you get hung up like, oh, my belt's stuck, don't try to fight it. Don't try to get out of the car. Go back into the vehicle, shut the door, and take care of the snag, the situation, right? Because if you're there trying to jerk and work something loose and a car's coming and they're not paying attention, you could get hit, your vehicle could get hit, all right? So if something like that happens and you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't get out, go back into the car, okay? Now, lock your doors after you're certain you have your keys. Okay, my car keys have the fob, right? It's got the little built-in lock thing, all right? If you get into the habit of locking your keys with this instead of the buttons on the panel, you will never lock your keys in the car, okay? If you get into the habit of locking your vehicle with your keys, you will not leave your keys in the car. But if you get in that habit of pressing those buttons on the door, you can lock the keys into the car. If you have a keyless ignition, right here, just clip your keys on. Once you get close to the door, you can unlock the door without the fob. You can get into the car, turn the car on without moving the fob. And there's zero chance you're going to leave it in the car. Okay? For keyless ignition, there's a pro tip. All right? Now, chapter review. All right, number 1, remember, it's going to be the questions, and then at the end, it'll be the questions with the answers. So you can never rely completely on your rear view mirrors when changing lanes because is that they may not be properly adjusted. Is that they are too far apart? Are they too small? Or do they have blind spot areas? Why can't we rely on our mirrors when changing lanes? Okay. Or only on our mirrors. Now, while approaching your parked car, the first step before getting in should be, what's the first thing we have to do when we're going to get in the car? Okay. Do we have our key in our hand? Do we bend down and search under the car? Do you check tire pressure with a reliable tire gauge? Or do you open the door carefully? When you're approaching your parked car, the first thing you should do before getting in is what? Number 3, to make a smooth braking action, you should, is that release some braking pressure 1 to 2 seconds before the car stops? Is that jam on the brakes to lock the wheels and then release all unnecessary braking pressure? Do we shift to neutral 1 to 2 seconds before the car stops? Or do we slowly apply pressure to the brake pedal until the car is fully stopped? what do we do to make a smooth braking action? What will you be hungry for? Right. A parking lot is a good place to practice the first in-vehicle lesson because is that more time can be spent on advanced techniques without traffic. You have the opportunity to repeat your actions often. You need a big space to practice driving maneuvers, or you may not be able to legally drive on the street. Well, let me take D and eliminate that one for you right away. We will not take you on a driving lesson until you have a permit. And when you have a permit, that is when you are legally permitted to drive on the street. Okay? You should not be driving a car without a permit because it is illegal. It used to not be back when I was young, but our parents did not teach us driver's ed the way they should have. They didn't teach us the rules of the road as they should have, or at least as a whole. And my mom was a cop and she didn't do a great job. I knew them because I actually took the classroom portion of driver's ed in California when I was a teen, right? But yeah, so one of those is right, or one of those is definitely wrong. The other three are possibilities. Now, to avoid injury from an airbag in your vehicle's steering wheel during a collision, keep your hands between, I'm just going to give you this one because this one's a little tough, but you want to keep them between the 9 and 3 and the 8 and 4 positions. That means on opposite sides of the wheel, centered, or slightly below that. Why? Because when your airbag inflates, if your hands are above, the airbag can throw your arms up like a roller coaster ride. Problem is that the roof on our car is generally not super high, and that airbag could cause damage to one of your arms, if not both. Could lead to broken limbs. We don't want that, so 9 and 3, 8 and 4 for safe driving in a vehicle with an airbag. Right? Now, the most important safety features shown here will prevent all of the following. The safety features shown here is a seatbelt, folks. Now, it will prevent all of the following except that it will slow down your body gradually if you're in a crash. It prevents you from being thrown into the crash. It keeps you from being thrown out of the car in the crash. It will not keep unbelted passengers from crashing into you. Okay. What does the seatbelt not do? Okay. So, number 1, you can never rely completely on your rearview mirrors when changing lanes because, yeah, they have blind spot areas. If you're changing lanes to the left, you need to turn your head and look to the left. If you're changing lanes to the right, you need to turn and look to the right. Okay, this corner of the eye stuff, when it comes to changing lanes, we need to check that blind spot. When it comes to turning, we need to check that blind spot. Corner of the eye, that's for checking intersections and stuff as you drive straight because that will work. But corner of the eye is not going to catch what's going on behind us, and that's the blind spot. Okay? Number 2, when approaching your parked car, the first step before getting in should be have your key in your hand. And if you're parked in a parking lot and you do not remember where you parked, do not use your key as a toot-toot to find it. Because you know who else is able to find your vehicle when you do that? Car thieves. And car thieves know one thing for a fact. An individual that's not certain about where their car is not going to be paying attention, the greatest of attention to the world around them. Easier to sneak up on them and rob them. Right? And then ladies, especially for y'all, I've seen people use their alarm to find their location, their car, and then they walk to it. Well, if a car thief late at night, hears the alarm goes off and they go stand over by it, and they see a young lady walking towards it, their Grand Theft Auto could turn into kidnapping as well. Okay? Please don't do that. You're alerting other individuals to the position of the car that you're about to head directly to. And if you play, any kind of video games, when the enemy knows where you want to go, it's very easy to catch you. It really is. All right? To make smooth braking action, you should release some braking pressure 1 to 2 seconds before your car stops. When it's making that forward lurch, finally coming to a stop, that's when we release that. That makes the car catch up to us and smooths out that braking action. Makes it feel real nice. It's like butter. All right. Number 4, a parking lot's a good place to practice the first in-vehicle lesson because you will have the opportunity to repeat your actions often. All right. Advanced techniques require traffic. Okay. You do not need a big space to practice driving. You can practice rights and left in a 30 by 30 square, and that's not very large at all. I mean, 900 square feet's kind of big, but not in the grand scheme of parking lots and stuff like that. And then, as I said, you have to legally be able to drive before we give y'all a lesson. All right. There you go. Number 5, to avoid injury from an airbag. Yeah. 9 and 3, 8 and 4. All right. If your hands are above the median point of the steering wheel, there's that risk that the airbag is going to make your arms fly out. All right. Thrown up into the roof, out, possibly hitting your passenger or the window and hurting yourself or maybe even another person. And so be careful. Right, the most important safety feature shown here, the seatbelt, will not keep unbelted passengers from crashing into you. Everyone needs to be buckled up to stay safe in the car, including your pets, folks. All right, so every day make the world a better place, but first do no harm. Every day make that choice, make that change, make that decision that's going to take you one step closer to the person you want to be, the career you want to have, the life you want to be living, or just the attitude that you're looking for. Okay, make sure that first and foremost you like yourself. And make the changes that's going to make you like you more. Become the sort of friend that friends would want to have. That's the secret to being happy in life, folks. Because if all of us do that, if every last person on this planet decided to stop making the world a lousy place, it'd get better a lot faster. If people just let things go. All right, and y'all have that power inside you, that power to change, that power to choose. Now, at this point, we do have some time for questions, issues, or concerns. If anyone's got anything that they would like to know, anything that they need to know, please, now is your time to ask. Later this week, I'll show y'all how to use the scheduler so that we can get through it once or twice before the end of term, so that you can get those drives scheduled, those 7 drives that you need to get done after you get that permit. But today, nothing really on the agenda. So is there anything, folks, that y'all need, any information that y'all need, anything that you're not clear on that I can help you out with? We do still have you done assignment 6? Sure, let's take a look. Shnikes, I don't have 6 open. I'll just do that real quick. 1 second, I will get to that in about 20 seconds. So, let's see. Assignments, the year is 2022. We are the 926 class. There's the class roster. And your... okay, so once you pass the DPS exam and paid for the course in full, the certificate will be made for you. Once you get that certificate from us, then you can go down to DPS with that and turn that into a driver's license, indeed. All right. Okay, let me just... All right. Yeah. Ms. Guillen, I am seeing the day 6 assignment. All right. And yeah, so once you pass that DPS exam, once you pay for the course in full, and we provide you the certificate, not only will we provide you a certificate, but we're actually going to provide you an envelope that contains everything that you need that we can provide you. And then you just have to get your stuff together. But here, let's take a look at that real quick. We're actually going to be posting a video here in the next couple days explaining how to get the permit. But check it out. All right, so here's the checklist right here, right? And let's see, what hours y'all open so you can go pay in full. You can come by basically from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and like 9 to 3 on Saturday. I believe you will find office staff available. But you can also make those payments over the phone if you're not going to be paying with cash. And they can help you out with that. All right, but you need the DE964. All right, the DE964 is this. It's a certificate that we give you for completing the driving test and paying for the course in full. Proof of identity, lawful presence. That's like either a state-issued ID, a passport, or a birth certificate and social security card. Proof of Texas residency. The individual who has the bills in their name needs to be the one to take you down to DPS, and they'll take 2 bills that are specific to your home address with them when they take you. If they can't go, and it'll be the other parent, please let us know, hey, I need a affidavit of residency. That's so that the parent that has the bills in their name can fill it out, but they don't have to be present when you get the permit. And then you'll need a proof of Social Security or resident alien ID number. If you are a legal alien, you got that resident alien ID. If you're a legal citizen, you got that Social Security number. You just need to have the card to prove that you got it. A VOE from your school. Most schools require that you be a student in good standing. That means passing all your classes with good attendance. Unfortunately, because of that, some schools get a little bit finicky about when they're getting those VOEs out. It's probably a good idea if you know that you're in risk of messing that up. Get it sooner than later because they're only good for 30 days. But if it's, like they're not going to give it to you because you're failing a class, then you're going to have to get that grade up before they'll get it to you, and that could take more than 30 days. I don't know what your situation is, but VOEs are a good one to get, by the end of week 2, because then they're good still for 3 weeks after that. As long as you're paying for the course in full, you can get that certificate and go get that submitted. And then you'll need the Dl14b application, and that is this guy right here. This is the one you pick up at DMV. We give you a copy so that you don't have to be sitting in there worried about Corona filling it out. You go in ready to get your permit. You're like, here is everything. We even give you a nice envelope that you can stick it all in. They open it up, confirm that everything's there. They check your eyes. Once you're done with the eye exam, if you fail it, you need to wear glasses. If you don't need to wear glasses while you drive. They'll stand you in front of a screen, say, please look up at the camera, pretend it's a game show, come up with that winning smile. Hey, whatever you want on the picture, because at that point, they are taking your photograph for the thing that you're going to need to prove yourself for basically the next 8 years. So take a good picture. No SpongeBob pajamas, because then your picture's going to have, is that SpongeBob pajamas? And then, you never live that down. And gents, if you like metal concerts and you're all gothed up, make sure you take out that eyeliner. I forgot to take mine out for my very first driver's license picture. So the number one question I answered is, Steve, were you wearing makeup? No, I have thick eyelashes. Totally wearing eyeliner because I was at a concert the night before. It's just how it went. All right, let's see. Any other questions, issues, or concerns? Anything else that I can help y'all with before we get rocking and rolling, folks? Before we go and call it a day? And then next time we have some free time, I will also show y'all how you can make payments online, as well as the different things that, those different services that we provide, so you can be aware of the fees, because we do have that $40 no call, no show fee. You can show up to a driving lesson, but if you forget your sensible shoes, your mask, depending on the situation, your permit, you will not be allowed to drive, and you will incur a $40 charge. So make sure you got everything that you need to, and you're dressed respectably when you come for a driving lesson, so that you get to go on your driving lesson. And remember, driving lessons have a minimum time of 55 minutes out of the hour. So if you are more than 5 minutes late, the driver may just be like, sorry, I can't drive you. I've got another person right after you, and I'm not going to delay then 10 minutes just because you were late. And that's totally valid. So please show up on time, bring everything that you need so that there's no issues with that. All right, let's see, nothing else? All right, folks. Well, then it looks like there's no other questions, issues, or concerns. So thank you so much for joining us. Today was once again day 7 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Tomorrow's hump day. It's the middle. It is day 8 out of 16. Day 8 out of 15 live streams. So it is the middle day. We're going to be talking about IPDE, the Smith system, and zone control. And those are all the things that you use to see, to understand, to predict, and to stay safe on the roadway, folks. So tomorrow's an important lesson, and I love it because I love being able to teach that. That saved my life, and y'all will learn about that tomorrow. All right, but thank you so much for joining us today. Y'all have a lovely evening. We'll see y'all same bat time, same bat channel for day 8 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway, tomorrow live at 5. Later, folks. Take it easy.